February. Our next meeting will be March 27th at 7:30 p.m.
Thank you. Next up is ad hoc reports. Does anyone have an ad hoc report this evening?
Mr. President,
Ms. Orb?
I have an update from the tree board. Actually, we have another meeting this Friday at 5:30 here in council chambers. Also, as an update, I don't know if anyone noticed, the tree is out front. It should get planted tomorrow morning. There was a slight hiccup. It would have got planted last week, but there was issues that have since been resolved, and it should go in the ground tomorrow.
It looks pretty good out there as is.
It's gonna look even better.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Orb. Any other ad hoc reports this evening? Hearing none, we'll move on to the administrative reports. Good evening, Madam Mayor. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. President. I did see the tree, although I thought it would be bigger for some reason. I imagined something like
It's tied up.
on the square. I was thinking it was that tall, so I don't know why. But we'll see tomorrow. I just had a couple things. Ms. Dewall did mention from the financial meeting that we had that tune-up redo. Ms. Tony, I can't recall her last name right.
Russell,
now.
I think.
Russell
Now that
was
you say
here.
it.
I did speak to Dan Brooks, who is the president of the Planning Commission, and told him that she may possibly be reaching out to, discuss her options because that has been zoned differently now. So he has been made aware. The Easter egg hunt that we generally have, the city was going to do that this year. But Journey's Community Church has done so. They're going to have it this year. And Ms. Clear, if you could remind me of the date, is it April 1st? It was April 1st. April 1st. Ours was initially for April 1st, but now, so we want all the little kiddies to go there instead because the city's not hosting it, but I'm sure a lot of our faces will be there because they have such a good time. I got another email today from Orlena Brooks. She, I believe, is the mother of the young lady who came with the home over on Belmar, West Belmar. She is in the same capacity reaching out to see what the city can do. I do know Ms. Iki has been looking into that to see what can be done. So, not sure. I'm sure she has a report at some point on that. Maybe not today, but she'll have something on it. And that's all I have right now. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Any
Oh,
questions?
I'm sorry, there is one more thing. I was going to ask if we could, Ms. Underwood, possibly pull, I will pull it for you. I sort of want to see if we can look again, if your committee, Rules and Public Policy, can look over the ordinance with the name slips my mind again, with our children when they're out of school, the parental, which one is it? No, it's a parental ordinance that gives the parents responsibilities when their children are outside of school or within our neighborhood, making the parents responsible. I'll pull it. If you could let me know, maybe we can touch base. If you can review it. It's been several years since that ordinance has been looked at. I'm not sure if we need to add or remove some things from it, especially with them going to 4 days next year. So, thank you. That's all I have.
Are you sure? Just kidding.
If not, I'll come back.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Any questions for the mayor?
Excuse me.
All right. Oh, Ms.
Mr.
DeWalt.
President, I don't know if this is the appropriate time to mention it. At one of the last meetings, Ms. Underwood said that she was going to give up one of her chairs, and I volunteered to take the public safety. So,
Well, Mr. President,
Ms. Underwood.
after further thought, I think I'd just like to honestly give up budget and finance. That
Okay.
way,
Well,
I don't know. I guess we can talk about it later.
This is a new business discussion, so we can discuss then. Thank you.
Mr. President, I do have one more thing.
Go ahead.
Food Truck Fridays are back. I'm sure they had a wonderful time on Friday. I was not able to make it. But it's generally the first Friday of every month, but I do believe next month it's on the 17th, the 14th. It's on April 14th next month. So Food Truck Friday, April 14th, 5 to 8 p.m. right out here in the parking lot.
I
I
did
promise
see
that's
that Foster's Foodies was here again, and Goodies was here, two of my favorites. I was sorry that I was not able to be here for that, but
Jazzy Sweets.
yes, I did see that too. I don't need any sweets. So yes, good that started back up.
Yeah, we're happy to have that back. That's all I have.
All right, you're not allowed to come back.
Microphone is moved.
All right, next up, we have the city administrator's report. Good evening, Ms. Ike.
Thank you, Mr. President. As you may imagine, I have been busy over the last 2 weeks since we met, meeting with various members of City Council, individual meetings with staff and department heads and members of the community. So I continue those efforts until I make the rounds at least once. So if you have not responded to my latest email in terms of scheduling a meeting, I will be after you again. Don't worry. With regard to the police department, they are in the process of conducting TASER certification trainings and stop stick training for all the new officers. And command staff has been making an effort to prioritize the parking and traffic issues throughout the city. So I do believe that was top of mind for most of you on council, and so they are making some efforts with that regard. A little bit of good news, we are paying off a loan that we have on an ambulance. We are paying that off early with some of our CARES Act money, about 3 years early, so we're very excited about that. We're saving a lot of interest. With regard to the recreation department, the mayor touched on this. I also had for food truck Friday on my list of things to talk about. I think despite the cold weather, the turnout was very good, and certainly the food trucks had a lot of delicious options to choose from, especially the ones with the sweets. Also, with regard to some of the efforts in recreation, Ms. Clear has been very, very busy working on the senior center and decluttering and making some sense of an organization of the items that were left and taking some inventory and trying to get a better handle on what it is we will need to move forward with that project and what that looks like. So she spends several hours over there every week, and we appreciate her efforts greatly for that. There is a lot of work to be done there. With regard to finance, we're in the process of auditing our benefits for accuracy. I think it had been some time since we'd taken a look at that, so we are looking at the compilation of benefits for employees and making sure that those are being administered correctly. And we also completed our yearly biometric screening for the employees who opt in for the health insurance. The turnout this year was very good as compared to past years, I am told. So we're happy that everyone is used to that process. And we have also streamlined the onboarding process with a new hire packet, which is emailed in advance, along with some links for them to enter and upload their own data and documents. So making some progress there with regards to streamlining our processes and being more efficient, which you will hear a lot from me. We do have the tree outside. I hope you all did take note of it when you came in. Like Ms. Sorb said, there was a little hiccup with the utility markings last week, but we believe that has been rectified, so that tree should be in the ground tomorrow, and we will be very happy to see it in its new home. And with that, I believe my report is completed. Any questions?
Thank you, ma'am. Any questions for the city administrator? Hearing none, we'll move on to the law director's report. Mr. Dieters?
I just have two brief things, Mr. President. Ms. Dorb asked me a question about a motion that council made at the last meeting, and then the issue was whether or not it required a written resolution. And I think there was a little bit of confusion about that, so I just kind of want to, I think Ms. Dorb brought up something up. Can you hear me? that might have been a really good learning experience for all of us. I guess this isn't working, so I'll switch over to yours. I think, Ms. Orb, you made a motion to authorize the purchase of the tree to basically sign the contract with the company. And then there was some concern over whether or not that was an appropriation or not. So it made us go back and look at the charter a little bit closer. And what we determined was that council can authorize the entering into a contracts by motion. It doesn't require a written resolution or written ordinance, as long as the money is appropriated before the contract is entered into. If council wants to reappropriate money from one fund to another, then that would require a written resolution. When I got the call, I think from Ms. Dukes-Dean, I couldn't remember if you had appropriated the money or you just approved the contract. So I think that's why we redid it, just to be safe. But Ms. Orb did not make a mistake. It was just a matter of us going back and looking at it and figuring out how to do it. So when you pass the new legislation, it'll just supersede and replace the other one. And then the other thing is any questions about that at all? But,
I'm clear, thank you.
Okay. And then the other thing, Mary DeWald asked me a question about the upcoming vacancy that will happen with Ms. Anderson's resignation. And it's interesting because the 5-day and 4-day, 5 and 45-day issue and the 4-day wait, that really only applies if the person who is vacating the seat was appointed by a committee, by a partisan committee. It appears that if the election person who vacated the position is nonpartisan or was not nominated by the committee, that there is no wait time, and that just is a simple council majority. So there was the question that Mary asked me about that, and I
Thank
told her
you.
I would. I don't know. I think I kind of surprised her by addressing it right now because
You
I
did.
thought she was on her own. But I would probably tell you, and then you would tell everybody anyway. So I thought I'd
No, I
just go ahead
wouldn't.
and I would just go ahead and fix that. So
Mr. President,
I have Ms. Underwood first.
Mr. Dieters, I have a question about that. Where do the candidates come from?
you would nominate them. Like there'd be a motion to nominate William Dieters for the vacant council seat, and then there'd be a second and a vote.
Okay,
So you as a council could interview people, you could just nominate individuals, just however, but really anything can happen. Because my understanding is that Ms. Anderson was not not partisan or not appointed by a committee. She didn't go through a primary or anything.
She did
She was elected.
But she was elected last time.
last term.
Elected, but I mean, when she was not nominated by
She just don't
the
have
central committee, right?
She just
No.
doesn't have anyone listed, you list folks
Yeah,
to.
so she doesn't list anybody. Okay.
she's nonpartisan.
Right.
Nonpartisan.
So she
right.
was elected at the
Right,
last
yeah,
election.
elected but nonpartisan, so there would be no committee that would have to appoint anybody.
Thank you.
Ms. Orb?
So I just want to make sure that I'm clear and I understand what you're saying. So if she has an effective last date, and I'm guessing, I think she said the 3rd. Did she
April
say the
3rd.
3rd? So someone could be theoretically appointed on the 4th? Is that the way you're explaining this to
Well, it would
us? or-
require a vote,
Right,
so theoretically it could happen the day after.
or at the next council meeting or wherever. Okay, all right, thank you.
And, Mr. President, just so I'm clear, and that's only because she's nonpartisan.
Because she's nonpartisan, correct. Yeah, if she was partisan, then the committee would appoint the person.
Any other questions? Thank you, Mr. Dieters. Next up is the Finance Director's report. She is not here this evening, so we will move on to call of members, starting with Ms. DeWald.
I have nothing, thank you.
Ms. Underwood?
Nothing this evening, thank you very much.
Ms. Alexander?
Nothing this evening.
Ms. Zorb?
We're going for 4. I have nothing this evening.
And Ms. Blythe?
I want to wish the North College Hill students all the success and dedication for the upcoming school year, where they'll be in school 4 days a week, but I guess working schoolwork from home on Monday. So I wish them all the success in the new endeavor. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Blythe. All right, next up, we do have remarks from the audience. I do believe you have signed in. If you wish to address council, if you wouldn't mind signing in, please. And Mr. Hedger, who do we have signed in currently?
We have a LaTanya Jackson signed in. If you wish to speak, please go to the podium.
Yep, please, if you would go to the podium, adjust the microphone so that we can hear you, and try and limit your comments to 5 minutes. Bring the microphone down.
Hi, how y'all doing?
Please state your name and your address, please.
All right. I'm LaTanya Jackson, and I live at 7114 Salmar Court here in North College Hill. And this is, I've been here for about 3 years now. And so this is my first council meeting, and I don't really have like a comment to say about anything that was discussed tonight. So I'll be at the meetings regularly to learn more about my city. So just want to say thank y'all for what y'all are doing.
Well, you're very welcome
you.
to be here.
Okay.
Welcome.
That's it, nothing bad.
Welcome.
Typically, people don't get up there to say nice things.
Actually, something has come to mind. By trade, I am a scientist, and I'm an environmental toxicologist. And one of the things that I haven't noticed around the city yet is, and maybe there's one, I just haven't seen it, but something like a community garden or something to where the community can get together and actually start to learn how to take care of their environment, and whether it's adults, children, or anything like that, that's an important thing that we do here. And specifically, I'm an aquatic toxicologist, so water is my thing and what's in it. And so I think that there could be, and I'd be happy to help, but some sort of community education and engagement where it has to do with our waters and keeping those clean and how we're drinking and what we're drinking. Because from, I moved to Cincinnati. I'm originally from Louisiana. I moved to Cincinnati when I got the job at University of Cincinnati because of how toxic Ohio is. And for me, it's a good thing. Unfortunately, for Ohio, it's a bad thing. But one of the things that got me into North College Hill was the fact that, I don't know if you know it or not, but the school seems to have been on a Superfund site at some point. So,
So, I'm sorry, on what site?
yeah. So, I don't know all the details about it, but they were on a Superfund site, and I don't know what the pollutant was, but yeah, the school was built on one. And
I'm sorry, what are you calling that fight?
Superfund. So
Oh,
basically.
a super fund.
Please
Yes,
explain to
sorry.
everyone what a Superfund site is.
So a Superfund site is basically a site that was at some point in time polluted by whatever pollution contaminant there was. And the site was quote unquote cleaned up, and then now it's used for public use or any type of use. And a lot of times this happens to be parks or schools or something like that that is usually built on Superfund sites. And some neighborhoods, like some neighborhoods in Price Hill. But I live in North College Hill, not Price Hill, so my concern is North College Hill. So yeah, in case you all wonder, I'm constantly testing our water to make sure we're good.
Yay.
Especially now that they're doing all the construction. But I do think that there's, and I'm probably running out of time, but I do think that, you know, there's a place for some type of education and engagement having to do with the community and the environment. And so I'm hoping to see that come up at some point in time.
Mr. President,
Madam Mayor?
there is a community garden. Are you familiar with where the board office is on Goodman?
No, but I will go check it out. as
It's
soon as this meeting's
behind
over.
Goodman. So if you go to 1731 Goodman is the address of the board office. It's on that property. If you're facing the building, it's to the left of the building. And I know the girl who runs it is Carla Belcher. So
Well, thank
it
you.
doesn't have water, I don't think. I don't know.
No?
But
All
it's
right.
a community garden. And I do know that they tried to do something at one point on the high school property, if you're familiar with the property, when you
Yes.
pull in the lot and you start to go around that bend where the cafeteria is, there's a little area. I think it fell through, though. I'm not sure, what you would call it, because I'm not an outside girl, that environmental that way. Maybe one of the ladies who are, they have one in Mount Healthy, like where they take the kids to do, you know what I'm talking, I can't get it out.
Tecum Farm or whatever, is that how you say it?
I don't know if that's it,
Tikkum.
but they take them through it and they, I don't know, they're nodding their heads, but I think they tried to do something like that at one point there on the school property, but it didn't work. I just think it died. I don't know if where it was. If you would see it, if as soon as where the stairs go up to the parking lot, it's an area right
It's
there.
a sign there
think
too.
it's
It's a sign
Is
still
there?
there.
Okay. A rain garden, is that what that was? I never read it, believe that or not. So, but there is a community garden at 1731 Goodman in the back.
Mr. President,
Ms. Zorb?
I believe there is I think it's a community garden too at the Calvary United Methodist Church it's right across the street from Scally's on Galbraith, right there in the front. They put it in the front. Because the
I
Javette,
think the only issue that I came up to is when I looked up community garden near me, Mount Healthy came up. Nothing from North College Hill came up, so.
we need to advertise more.
Yeah.
That's what that tells me.
But I'll check it out, thank you.
Can you tell us where did you just do a Google search, or how did you?
Yes, I just did a Google search of community gardens near me, and when I did it, well, being that I live right in front of Kroger, that could be why Mount Healthy came up, but that was all that came up for me.
We need to work on that.
But I will check it out.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Jackson.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Hedger, who do we have next, sir?
We have Orlean Brooks.
Please state your name, your address, and try and keep your comments to 5 minutes, please.
My name is Orlena Brooks. I live at 1625 West Belmore Place. I was up here, me and my daughter, a couple of weeks ago about our flooding situation that we're having. Right now, we still don't have any heat. And it's basically because we've had to pay to get our furnaces fixed multiple times. So every time it rains, when that rain come in, it tears the furnace up. So right now, the furnaces are broke, which I'm probably have to come out of pocket once again to get it fixed again. Our hot water finally came on, but we're down to, which is okay, one hot water tank. But we live in a two-family, so. Another thing is, I was trying to find out if they can send somebody out to clean that, at least try to clean the storm drain, because it's a whole bunch of trees and leaves and all kind of stuff on top of the drain. So it's probably blocking that water from even getting into the drain. So that's why.
Mr. President,
Ms. Underwood?
Ms. Brooks, where is the storm drain located?
It's in the back of, I believe that's 1623, which is like, on the right side of us.
Okay.
Mr. President,
Madam Mayor?
Ms. Brooks, I did get your email, and I have spoken with our city manager. I believe that our engineers have already come out, and so we're working to try to see what we can get done. We just may need, I hate to even say to you, could you be a little bit more patient? But we're trying to take care of what we can,
Okay.
if we can. So I do know that they've been out and they're working together. I'll see, I don't want to speak for Ms. Iki, but is there any way possible we can see if our guys could clean them?
Is the storm drain in someone's backyard?
It is in someone's backyard, but they don't live there anymore. It's empty.
Okay.
The guy that used to live there, I guess he moved because his place flooded too, just like ours.
Okay.
But I don't think he was the one that owned it. So I'm not sure who owns it.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Brooks. Mr. Hedger, is there anyone else signed in?
No, Mr. President.
Thank you. We'll turn to legislation. Mr. Hedger, when you're ready.
Thank you. Second reading resolution number 6, 2023, a resolution to authorize the city administrator to execute a collective bargaining agreement between the city of North College Hill and the Fraternal Order of Police, Ohio Labor Council Incorporated.
Thank you. Next.
Second reading resolution number 8, 2023, a resolution authorizing participation in the ODOT Road Salt Contracts Award in 2023.
Thank you.
Mr.
Ms.
Mr.
Lord?
President,
Go ahead.
I realize we don't have 6 people here tonight, but I thought there was a deadline of this, that we needed this passed. And I see on here it says by Friday, April 22nd. Is that something that, I mean, do we have to have a special meeting to get that passed in time?
Did you say April 22nd or March 22nd?
April. This says Friday, April 22nd.
We have another
We're
meeting
only-
before then.
I don't know my months, so forgive me.
We're in March.
Okay. Act like I didn't talk.
Thank you, Ms. Zorb.
I was trying to figure it out like.
I don't know what my months are anymore. Everything's.
Mr. Hedger, next reading, please.
First reading resolution number 9, 2023, a resolution to ask for a request for proposal for the installation of a splash pad at Dumley Park.
Next reading.
First reading resolution 10, 2023, a resolution declaring April 26, 2023 in honor of Alice and Phoebe Cary as poets and abolitionists and feminists.
Madam Mayor, do you wish to speak about this one?
I do not, Mr. President. That was Ms. Anderson's legislation. She just reached out to me
Okay.
because she had not seen it, so I just forwarded it on to you.
Okay, thank you. Next reading, Mr. Hedger.
First reading resolution number 11, 2023, a resolution to authorize the city manager to enter into a contract with Gregory Forrest Lester, Inc. for the purpose of installing a Norway spruce Christmas tree.
Thank you. Next.
First reading ordinance number 1, 2023, an ordinance making additional appropriations.
Thank you. Next.
First reading ordinance number 2, 2023, an ordinance to authorize a supplemental pay to LaWanda Willis for finance manager duties.
Thank you. Next.
First reading ordinance number 3, 2023, an ordinance to establish a capital improvements fund and a city development recreation fund to replace the city's home improvements fund.
Thank you. Next.
First reading ordinance number 4, 2023, an ordinance to provide a pay stipend to the police chief and fire chief for jointly assisting the duties of the city manager.
Thank you. That is all the legislation this evening. Next up is further remarks from the audience, if anyone wants to speak regarding any of this legislation. We'll go to old business. Hearing none, we'll
Mr.
move.
President,
Ms. Underwood.
I think old business were the committees.
That's fine. We can discuss that now.
I know I had mentioned that I might want to step down as chair, but I think it would be better and more efficient for me just not to come on one of the meeting days. And so I would just actually like to resign from Budget and Finance.
And Mr. President,
Ms. DeWald?
Regarding that, it already has a chair and a vice chair, so she's simply just removing herself from the committee.
Correct, and we don't have to vote or anything on that.
Correct.
Thank you. And I would also like to resign from community development as, messing up the name there, but just resign from both of those committees meeting on that day.
Thank you. Anything else for old business?
Mr. President,
Ms. Underwood?
at the risk of, there's no chair, there will be no chair for the Community Development Committee, and we need to get that figured out, I guess.
So you would be correct on that with Ms. Anderson leaving. We will not have a chair. We currently do not have a vice chair. I was prepared to appoint a vice chair. I am in negotiations with somebody right now to do the vice chair role. If that person would like to go ahead and volunteer tonight, that'd be great. I would rather people volunteer to do these than for me to be placing people on committees as chairs and vice chairs.
Mr. President, I'm willing to be vice chair as long as someone else is going to be chair.
So in case you were wondering, Ms. Alexander is who I was working with to hopefully take the vice chair role. So she has now volunteered for that. That we do need to vote on, correct?
Mr. President,
Ms. Zorb?
I would like to make a motion to nominate Ms. Alexander to the vice chair position for the City, Community, and Recreation Committee.
Mr. President,
Ms. Underwood?
I'll second that vote and nomination. Or motion, I'm sorry. Not the vote, a motion and nomination.
Yes, ma'am, I understand. All right, we have a motion on the floor to name Ms. Alexander as the vice chair of the City Community Development and Recreation Committee. The motion's by Ms. Zorb, second by Ms. Underwood. Any discussion? Mr. Hedger, please call the roll.
DeWall,
Yes.
Underwood,
Yes,
Alexander,
Yes.
Zorb,
Yes.
Blythe.
Yes.
Motion passed 5-0.
Thank you. Anybody want to volunteer to be the chair? Okay, so I'm going to start working my negotiations with a chairperson for that role and hopefully get that filled at our next meeting, hopefully.
Mr. President,
Ms. DeWald?
on that same note, Ms. Anderson leaves an opening for the liaison for Rita. She's the chair, and I believe it's chair and vice chair, and Ms. Zorb is the second, but I'll take her spot on Rita.
I believe they're called primary and backup.
That's what it is. Thank you.
Okay, so Ms. DeWald is volunteering to be the primary for the Rita Council. We do need a vote on that, if I'm correct.
Mr. President,
Ms. Underwood?
I move that we appoint, is that the right word? Ms.
That'll work.
DeWald as the primary representative for Rita.
Mr. President, I'll second that.
Thank you, Ms. Zorb. So we have a motion from Ms. Underwood, second by Ms. Zorb to name Ms. DeWald as the primary representative to the Rita Council. Any discussion? Mr. Hedger, please call the roll.
DeWall,
Yes.
Underwood,
Yes,
Alexander,
Yes.
Zorb,
Yes.
Blythe.
Yes.
Motion passed 5-0.
Thank you. That's a good catch, Ms. DeWald. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Any other old business? Okay, we'll move to new business.
Mr. President,
Ms. DeWald.
hearing no new business, I move to adjourn.
Mr. President,
Ms. Underwood wins this one.
I'll second that.
I think it's just because she sits closer.
I almost wrote your name after all that. All right, motion to adjourn by Ms. DeWald, second by Ms. Underwood. Any discussion? Mr. Hedger, please call the roll.
DeWall,
Yes.
Underwood,
Yes.
Alexander,
Yes.
Zorb,
Yes.
Blythe.
Yes.
Motion passed 5-0.
Thank you, everyone.